Hello, and welcome to Conquering Finale. My name is Jason Lafredo, and this is a subscriber request. Today's request comes from Josh Oxford. Josh was asking about Canonic Utilities and other utilities or plugins that can help with manipulating melodic or harmonic lines in your score. It's a great question. It's very relevant to anyone that composes or arranges directly in Finale. So I'm more than happy to help Josh out here and show all of you a few tools that can really make short work of these types of manipulations. Before I get into that, I just want to show you how you can submit a request for a video. First of all, you must be a subscriber, so click the subscribe button on YouTube and/or sign up for the mailing list by clicking this link on the website. Then, just send me an email here with your request. Lastly, if your request does make it to video, please consider a donation to the cause with whatever you can. It would be most appreciated. More details can be found following the link in the description below or directly on the subscriber request page of the website. Now, let's take a look at some of these harmonization tools. So I think the gist of Josh's question here is, once I have notes in my score, how do I manipulate these things and add things and move things around without having to actually go into the speedy or simple entry to, write new lines? Like if I wanted a third below the trumpet line here, I don't want to go in here and, completely rewrite a new line in the trumpet 2 line. It would take too long. So, for stuff like that, there definitely are tools in Finale. It's just sort of important to know what they are and how to deal with them. So starting with the very, very, very basics, I'm in the selection tool and I'll make a selection of the trumpet 1 part here. And if you don't know these 4 shortcuts, you really need to. The 6, 7, 8, and 9 keys are shortcuts for 4 specific types of transpositions. The 6 key will actually transpose down a diatonic step. So you saw the whole passage go down a step. Press it again, it goes down a step, etc. The 7 key will go up a diatonic step. And so you can use those 6 and 7 keys to move these notes up and down the staff as much as you need to. The 8 key will go down an octave. The 9 key will go up an octave. So again, 6, 7, 8, 9, the easiest type of manipulations you can do. If you don't know those, you really should. Now, those keys are actually shortcuts for a specific transposition from the utility menu here. And this is the next thing I want to talk about, this little transposition dialog box. It is fairly simple. It's, you can kind of easily follow what's going on here. Which direction are you transposing? You're going up. Are you transposing diatonically or chromatically? You have 2 different options here. And then what interval are you transposing? So you can choose anything you want. If you need to go up a third, it will transpose up a third, right? Of course, for me, if I'm going up a third, it's easier for me to press 7, 7 as opposed to doing, going through the transpose thing here. The chromatic method here will give you a different set of options. You can see that now we have all kinds of things: minor second, major second, augmented second, diminished second. It gets a little technical depending on what accidentals you're dealing with. The augmented unison, if you have an F sharp major scale spelled out and you need it to be G flat major instead of trying to go through and change the enharmonics of every one of them, you could actually go into here and choose upwards and augmented unison, and that would change the F sharp scale to a G flat scale all in one shot. So that's an interesting use case for that. Also, just be aware that, the difference between diatonic seconds and chromatic major second, for example, if I were to do this, you'll see my B flat major scale in the first measure turns into a C major scale, right? With the diatonic transposition, this E would be flat, this B would be flat, staying within the key. So that's the difference between the chromatic and diatonic type transpositions. And we can add octaves to this if we need to. So a lot going on here, very useful. The other thing about this is the preserve original notes, which is really handy because what this does is it turns this transposition utility into a harmonization utility. So not only can I, let's say down a third, I'm transposing these notes down a third, but I'm keeping the original notes. So really what I'm doing is adding a third below the entire line. So again, really, really handy. Now we can do this twice in a row. We can do another third here. What you do have to be careful about is that you can't do too much complicated things here. Like if I were to try to add another fourth below this, what's going to happen is that you're going to get this mess. And Finale is technically adding a fourth below every single note. You don't notice it, and Finale will ignore the extra notes when you're going third, because you're after the B flat adds the G, then the down a third adds the G and the E flat, but the G gets ignored because it's already there. So a little bit of limited use there, but it's a pretty handy little tool. And in fact, I actually have a whole keyboard maestro setup for this. I have a palette for transpositions, and literally this is triggering all of the possibilities within that transposition utility over here. And you can see when I pull this up, I can just press like the 3 key, and it will go through that box and transpose everything up a third, which is really handy. And then I have some sub palettes for the chromatic versions of these. So if I wanted to, add below chromatically, I'd press Shift A, and then choose, minor third, Shift 3. And so it would actually go through and add a chromatic minor third to the line here, which is really cool. And thanks to Nick Mazook and Finale Super Users for that tip about setting up the keyboard maestro for the transpose. He actually gave me that idea, and I thought it was cool, so I went through and created a whole bunch of those scripts. So thanks to Nick for that. There's another great utility right within Finale. I haven't even gotten to plugins yet. In the utilities menu here, we have the Explode and Implode music functions. And the Explode function will work to actually just take these 4-note chords here and explode them downwards if you want. So let's go into this little Explode music utility. And it's kind of simple to see what's going on. How many staffs do you want to split it into? 4 staffs, 1 note per staff. The explode direction is the top down. Extra notes, you can choose what to do with the extra notes, and then where you're placing the music, you have the option to add a new staff to the bottom of the score, but more often you'd probably want to add it to an existing staff, starting with, and then you can choose whatever you want here. So technically, you could actually have this in like a scratch piano part, and then just choose the alto sax part, and that would be a way to distribute these notes in that manner. And it's really easy. Just click OK, and all of a sudden, those 4-note chords get spread out to the alto and tenor saxes right here. The implode function, implode music, does the opposite. So you select those 4 staffs, and you choose where to place the music into. In this case, I'm going to do the top staff of selection, and it will do that. However, that implode will not actually delete the other staff, so you have to go and delete that. Now, the cool thing is that it will also deal with marking. So I have the same thing here, just with a few markings, some slurs and expressions and articulations. So we'll go into Explode Music. We'll do the same thing, 4 in a staff, 1 note per staff. Now, you can manipulate this a little bit. So if I really wanted to, I could do split into 2 staffs and uncheck this. And basically, it will put 2 notes on each staff. But this is probably the normal way you'd want to use this. And what you can see is that it will actually explode all of the markings as well, which is nice. There is a little bit of an issue using the implode function when you have markings. It just doesn't really work that well. Finale has never fixed this. What happens is that if you choose top staff of selection, you get duplicates of everything. In fact, you'll get 4 articulations. It doesn't look like there's 4 slurs here, but there actually are 4 overlapping slurs. There's 4 expressions here. It's just not exactly ideal to do it that way. There is another tool that I'm going to show you soon that will perform that a little bit better. But so that's, a couple options right within Finale from the utilities menu, the transpose and the explode and implode music. So, right off the bat, I haven't even got to the plugins. There's already some tools that are really good to use. So let's start talking about some of these plugins. And I think I'm going to start with the one that's built in under the scoring and arranging category here called Canonic Utilities. And we get this little utility here that will do a bunch of different things. There's inversions that we can do. There's transpositions. We have some options to deal with the accidentals. There's some retrograde options, and we can do anything we want. As far as the inversions, I mean, some of this stuff, diatonic mirror inversion, chromatic mirror inversion, retrograde, this is sort of useful for like, I guess if you're doing fugues and stuff like that and you need to invert things and retrograde things, this is how you would do that. There's some different options for the mirror inversion, including where to put the pivot note. different options for the retrograde, including what to do if there are key changes and time changes. And so, there's a few different things we can do. Just to show you what this looks like, a diatonic mirror inversion around C4 would do something like that. The contour goes differently, pivoted around that C, I guess. The retrograde will literally turn this whole thing backwards. So you saw the whole rhythm go backwards, the passage went backwards. And we can actually combine these things too. So if I choose the retrograde option and the diatonic mirror inversion option and press apply, it will retrograde the rhythm, but also mirror the melody too. So there's a lot of different options available to you if you play around with those things. For me, the most useful piece of this utility for me is actually the chord inversion up and down. And, I write a lot of piano music, so I'm always sometimes left with situations like this, particularly if I transpose something where the chords may be just too low in this particular key. So that's a great little utility. Go to Canonic Utilities, go to chord inversion up. Don't check retrograde, please. And click apply, and you can see what it does, it flips the bottom note to the top. And you can even do it again, flips the bottom note to the top. So that's a great little utility. And it will work whether there's 3, 4, 5, 6 notes in the chords, whatever the case may be. There is a transposition here. Basically, the transposition options are very similar to the utilities transpose thing here. So you have all of those options available to you. I suppose that they put this in here because you can combine it with a mirror inversion and or a retrograde inversion. So you can do a lot of crazy things with this utility, including, create a diatonic mirror around this note, transposing it up a minor second, retrograde or something. So there's a lot of, combinations that you can play around with in this little window if you want. All right. But for me, the killer app in all of this, I think, is really the JW plugin called JW Staff Polyphony. If you do not have the JW plugins, I highly recommend them. There's a bunch of things in here that are really, really, really useful, including this Staff Polyphony, which is just sort of a killer app in my opinion as far as this goes. And when you pull this up, and by the way, I'll put a link to the website so that you can download these. It's definitely worth the wait for the download. There's different categories in this Staff Polyphony. We can do things with layers. Now, some of this will actually overlap with the functionality in the edit menu for the move, copy layers. We have the copy, we have the move. We can swap layers, same as the other utility. We can remove layers. We can keep certain layers. We can also merge and split layers. The merge and the split is something that you can't do with the move copy layers. So these two things specifically, I do find useful. Actually, if I select this little guitar part here, what you see happen with this split layers function is it will take that two-part harmony and split it into layers 1 and 2, which can be really handy depending on how you're doing, combined staffs for, flute 1 and 2 or something like that. And of course, the merge will undo that as well. Split from voices, if you're using voices in speedy entry, expression merge, etc. There's a bunch of different things here. I could literally spend hours on this little window alone, so I'm going to try and not speed through this, but kind of give you the highlights. The staves part of this is really, really killer. We have some options to merge to layers, split. Now the split is essentially the same thing as the explode function. So actually if we select the alto line here again and choose split, we can do 1 line per staff. And you notice that there's actually some other options here. So we can split in pairs. We can split in pairs 1, 3, 2, 4. So that's really, really handy if you're writing horn parts. Actually, if I just choose that just to show you what this looks like, you can choose this split direction, including a couple other options to keep the original staff. There's some other options here to deal with other things. But, split pairs 1, 3, 2, 4, you'll see it do that, which is, again, really handy for French horn parts. But simply 1 line per staff will basically do that explode function I showed you before. And actually, let me do that one more time. And of course, the merge will pretty much do the same thing as the implode. Except now you have the option of removing the sources, which is actually the only, one of the downfalls of the implode music function from the utilities menu. Destination, you can choose top selected staff. There's some other options to deal with certain circumstances, and just hit apply, and you can see that it will combine it into one staff for you, which is nice. The advantage of using this is that this will actually handle the markings correctly. So actually, let me go here and split this and then merge it again, and you'll see, unlike the implode music function, this won't actually double or quadruple the markings, except for the expressions, and there's a kind of technical reason for this, but you can always delete those. But yeah, so that merge and split, and you can split from layers if you have multiple layers that you want to split into different staves, split from voices, and the swap. Now this is really cool. So actually, let me see. So if I go in here, I can do this. I'm going to split. And this is really cool. So you can select like the alto 2 and the tenor 1 here and do the swap, and it will just swap these harmonies for you, which is really great. For years, I used to struggle with trying to figure out how to do this, because I'd be like, what do I have to do? I have to copy this into another staff, and then copy this one into here, and then copy that back into here. It's like a 4-step process until I realized that this little swap feature existed here. So that's really a killer. And then chord lines. Actually, let me go back and redo that. So merge that back together. And then there's a whole thing about chord lines, which is really interesting. Just the amount of things that you can do here. We can add, thirds. We can add intervals above or below, the top note, or add above the top note, add below the bottom note, add below the top note, above the bottom note. You can filter out for different types of rhythms and everything. I mean, it's so powerful. There's so much you can do here. You could process only a specific layer or certain layers. Again, there's just so much to this. We can delete certain chords or certain notes from a chord, which is really cool. So if I wanted to, delete the top line, for example, just choose top line, and you'll see that the top line will go away, which is just really handy. And you even have the option to custom lines from top. So I could delete lines 1 and 3 here and just be left with 2 and 4. Really, really cool little utility there. We can drop. So if we want to drop the second line or something, we can keep, sort of the opposite of delete. So if we only wanted to keep the top line, we could just choose top line, and all the other stuff goes away. What else do we have in here? Rotate. Now this is sort of the same thing as the invert chord that I showed you before. It will do the exact same thing. So rotate up, and you'll see it will rotate those notes up, rotate the chords upwards. Transpose. I mean, this is so cool. You can take the top line and transpose it up a third or something, right? And you'll just take that top line and transpose it up a third. So many available options in this chord lines here. Split unisons is handy every once in a while. If you end up in a situation where you've got some unnecessary unisons, you can just use the split unisons and get rid of them. And then there's a section on percussion lines, which I haven't quite managed to figure out. There might actually be something wrong with this piece of the utility. I'll have to have someone confirm that for me, but there should be things that you can do, including adding and deleting certain pitches from the percussion line, but I haven't been able to make that work for me yet. But anyway. So yeah, particularly the staves in the chord line section of this JW Polyphony plugin here. Again, it's the killer app as far as these types of manipulations are concerned. There's just so much you can do. Again, I could spend 6 hours, trying to, teach you all of the combinations of what's available. But at the end of the day, you might have to just explore that plugin a little bit and find out for yourself. All right, so that is the JW plugins. I will, again, put a link in the description to the website for the JW plugins. And yeah, I've been talking for a while about this. So as you can see, there are definitely lots of utilities and things that we can do to manipulate these notes and harmonies that exist here. So Josh, I hope that answers the question. I hope that you have some more tools at your disposal for this, and everyone else's too. So thanks for watching. Don't forget that you can also submit a request if you want. Just become a subscriber, either sign up for the mailing list or click the subscribe on YouTube, and send me an email with a request for a video. I love hearing from you, and it's great to see how you guys use Finale and the things that you need to know. So. All right, so that's it. My name is Jason Lafredo, and this has been a Conquering Finale subscriber request. If you enjoyed this video, please visit www.conqueringfinale.com to find full tutorials categorized by topic. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel here, follow me on Twitter here, email me here, or you can send me Morse code, telegraphs, or smoke signals. But please, no carrier pigeons.